Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. This is the 9th episode of story in which the third Hokage finally resolves to do something about Naruto's treatment, and he seeks the assistance of someone known for influencing things from the shadows. When Naruto has everything he needs, including an elder brother who will do anything to protect him, what could possibly go wrong? Please subscribe and smash the like button. Now, let's jump right in.
Naruto was pissed. No, he was beyond pissed. He was infuriated, enraged, exasperated, and just plain old angry. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he was thankful that he had actually taken to increasing his vocabulary so that he had a small plethora of words to describe his feelings. He would probably be angrier if the only word he could describe himself with was simply angry. But he was still pissed off beyond all reason. The old man had not only interrupted his ramen time, but he had done so for a simple mission. There was no emergency, no secret meaning to it, just a standard old C-rank mission with a secondary objective of assassinating some stupid tycoon somewhere in Wave Country. That brought up another thing that was pissing him off. Their client just so happened to be some old drunken bridge builder who honestly thought of himself as incredibly important to the overall success of Wave Country. Naruto was almost tempted to ask if the man and Sasuke had ever met at one of the national stuck-up prick conventions. The worst thing about the bridge builder, who he had actually learned was named Kazuna, was that the man had outright insulted most of the Jonan team as soon as he had laid eyes on them. He had called Sakura a useless cheerleader, Sasuke a pretty boy, Izo a blind brat, and had the gall to call Naruto Izo's seeing eye brat. The blonde was prepared to end the man there and then had it not been for the fact that the Hokage had assigned Kakashi's team specifically for this mission. That alone made him realize that the old man had some sort of suspicion about the bridge builder's mission request. The group of 6 were currently walking along a dirt road heading towards the land of waves. They were moving at a painstakingly slow pace thanks to Kazuna being a civilian, an old one at that. Sakura was obviously pleased at the casual pace of their walk, Sasuke not so much. The Uchiha, while pleased at finally having a higher-ranked mission that wasn't for something political, was not enjoying the civilian pace they were traveling at. Naruto didn't even want to mention how laid-back and uncaring Kakashi was about the mission. The Jonin had found that he could be a little less on guard with the 2 Uzumaki on the team. Izo was simply happy not paying attention to anything at all, which had caused him to trip several times and further convinced Kazuna that he was in fact blind. The older teen was a little bit too happy about the secondary objective of the mission, which the client thankfully didn't know about. Most would think he would be in the same boat as Naruto when it came to being angry with the bridge builder, but they would be wrong. Izo was already planning ahead to make the old fool swallow his words for when he simply assumed that he was blind and useless, and he had no doubt that Naruto would help in his cause. "So what exactly am I supposed to do with a group of brats like you?" Kazuna asked rudely, breaking the peaceful silence that had surrounded the group. "None of you seem particularly useful now. Don't be so sure, Kazuna. My team are quite capable of completing a simple C-rank mission. It is a little insulting that you would make such bold assumptions based purely on their appearance. A ninja's job is all about deception, is it not?" Kakashi replied calmly, not even sparing a glance up from his book. The old man grumbled a few slurred curses as he took another large gulp from his bottle of sake that never seemed to be too far from his hand. "And what about the blind one? What help could he possibly be when he's tripping over his own feet? I am just so glad that you have such faith in me, sir. It means the world to me that I am valued so highly," Izo said, his words drenched in sarcasm. "Keep being a smartass to me, boy, and I'll make sure you don't get paid for this mission," the bridge builder threatened. "Oh no! Not the money. Anything but the money!" the blindfolded teen exclaimed in mock horror. "I don't know what I would do without the oh-so-valuable pay from a C-rank mission." Kazuna narrowed his eyes at the boy. "I could simply cut back the pay for the entire team," he suggested dangerously. The glare that Izo got from both Sakura and Sasuke, along with a slightly daring glance from Kakashi, told the teen that now would be a good time to stop with the theatrics. Messing with your own payday was one thing, but screwing up a fellow ninja's income was a big no-no in the shinobi world, unless that was the requirements of your job, that is. Thankfully, for the rest of the team, Izo had no need to mess with their money. He and Naruto were practically set for life thanks to the blonde being a Namikaze and their conjoined mission records with en route. Danzo and the Hokage paid the Foundation members very well in compensation for everything they were put through. Still, Izo was a little irritated at the bridge builder. The old man was a drinker, as he had proved, but there was just something else. Izo was the unofficial information gatherer out of him and Naruto, along with most of the other specialized field roles, and he could tell that the man was hiding something. Well, it wasn't so much hiding as it was speaking in half-truths. The teen was sure that he would have a heart attack if he knew what the Foundation did to clients that purposely gave false information on their mission requests. Unfortunately, the official Konoha forces couldn't do that. There was still the need to figure out what the real deal of the mission was, and then assess whether or not it was worth continuing with. With both Naruto, Izo, and Kakashi, along with the support of Sasuke and Sakura, as pathetic as they may be, the team could easily complete a low A-ranked mission without too much hassle. Izo didn't suspect that this mission would escalate to S rank, but he kept the possibility on the table. Naruto was a literal magnet for shitstorms these days. That being said, the older boy was looking forward to the chance of actually killing someone on this mission. The last two missions they had been on, not counting the D ranks, had been rather uneventful when it came to his part of things. Getting a tower dropped on his head and being stuck dealing with Orochimaru's goons was not his idea of fun, even if both had allowed him to interact with cute girls. So where exactly are we going? Sakura asked almost innocently. The four male members of Team 7, along with Tazuna himself, all froze mid-step and stared at the girl in disbelief. They had said on multiple occasions that they would be heading to Wave Country when they had been in the mission registration office. The debriefing was solely for the team to know where the hell they were going. Had the girl not been paying attention at all? Tazuna instantly felt a little less safe while Kakashi offered him an apologetic smile. Sasuke was trying his hardest not to yell at the girl about being a fangirl, and Naruto and Izo simply went back to walking as if nothing had happened. Hopefully the girl would die on this mission and they would be done with her. Tazuna recomposed himself and cleared his throat. Well, we will be going to my village in the Land of Waves. Once we're there, you and your team will be protecting me while I build a bridge that connects Wave to the mainland, he explained, still not quite pleased that the girl had not paid any attention beforehand. Oh, okay. But why did you hire us? Doesn't the Land of Waves have a shinobi village? The pinkhead asked curiously, once again getting stupid looks from everyone else in the group. I don't want to be mean here, but did you have your parents bribe the academy into handing you top test marks? I only ask because you're asking stupid questions that one would normally expect from a complete moron, Izo inquired calmly. Sakura glared at the teen. I didn't cheat on my tests or bribe my way through them, she growled out angrily. Oh thank Kemi. That means you can shut up now before I feel like cutting out your tongue. If you really got all those high scores, then you should already know the answers to the questions that you have and will ask, the older boy stated. The Haruna looked to Kakashi for help, only to see that the Jonin was actually staring at her intently. Kakashi-sensei? The girl said meekly. I'm a little disappointed, Sakura. Not only did you not pay any attention to our mission details, but also, you apparently didn't retain much of what you should have learned in the academy. However, just in case you need a recap, no, the Land of Waves does not have shinobi or a hidden village. They rely heavily on the surrounding hidden villages for protection and missions, although with Kirigakure having been in civil war for the past few years, Wave has been forced to rely more on Konoha than normal, Kakashi explained with a barely notable irritated tone. Yeah, and you tree huggers charge the distance too, Tazuna grumbled. You should be thankful that we go to you at all when there are smaller villages closer by that charge less, but then you would be left with subpar shinobi who may not even be capable of completing the mission you requested, Sasuke said emotionlessly. It was clear that he didn't hold the minor hidden villages in high regard. Humphrey would probably still be better than a group of brats, the bridge builder slurred. I hope you do realize that I am not that much shorter than you, so calling me a brat is somewhat pointless, Izo commented irritably. You're still far too young for me to not call you a brat. Come and talk to me once you've had kids, Izo threw his arms up in exasperation. Again with the kid thing. What is it about having kids that suddenly gives people the sense of being superior to everyone else? I don't understand. And you never will. Until you have kids, that is, Tazuna said with a smirk. You know what? Fuck this. When we get back home, I'm growing a fucking test tube baby. The teen exclaimed angrily. Everyone's eyes widened in a mixture of shock and horror. Naruto was simply terrified of what his brother could potentially bring into this world, while the rest of them were all rather skeptical about whether or not the teen was capable of creating life at all. Kakashi was noticeably more concerned. The Jonin knew better than to underestimate a boy who had spent so many years seemingly taking note of Orochimaru's experiments. The teen was probably more knowledgeable in human biology than most field medics. And with that thought, Kakashi swore to make sure that Izo did not follow through on his statement. If we kill him now, we can reduce the damage by at least a half, Naruto whispered to Kakashi in a deceivingly urgent and serious tone. Won't the Hokage question his disappearance? He is, after all, Too skilled to simply die on a simple C-rank mission, the Hokage said casually. Despite his unsureness of it all, he was actually quite willing to go along with the blonde's plan. He had no doubt in his mind that Izo would somehow miraculously survive whatever was thrown at him anyway. Naruto shrugged carelessly. Not a big deal. With the two ninja up ahead, I think we could easily blame it on them and convince Sasuke and Sakura to go along with the story. The worst that could happen is that we fail and simply go along with things as if nothing happened. Kakashi raised an eyebrow at that and glanced up towards the road ahead of the group. It was faint, but he could definitely sense a chakra distortion, although the sense of the ninja were what really gave them away. Trying to hide from the summoner of the Dog Clan was pointless if you couldn't cover up your scent. Still, he was mildly curious as to what the shinobi were after. At best they would simply be trying to make a little extra cash, at worst they would actually have a reason for targeting his demon client. As the team finally got closer to the general location of the other ninja, whom Kakashi had noticed neither Sasuke nor Sakura had noticed, they came across a very unassuming puddle of water. Kakashi offered the puddle a sparing glance as he stepped over it, trying to gauge just how many were hidden under the genjutsu. He could sense, at most, 2 distinct scents, although neither seemed to possess outstanding amounts of chakra as far as he could tell. Probably C-rank shinobi if his guess was accurate, which was actually disturbingly fitting given the rank of the mission at hand. As they continued on, Kakashi readied himself to act as he noticed the shinobi seemingly climb out of the small puddle. He molded his chakra slowly and steadily before acting in surprise as a long-bladed chain was thrown around him. The Jonin instantly went to replace himself with something nearby, only to be beaten to the punch as something replaced itself with him. The sound of blades tearing through cloth resounded through the trees, followed by the odd sound of metal against stone. Everyone turned and stared in surprise, save for Naruto, at the scene of Izo standing rather casually with a long-bladed chain wrapped tightly around him and being pulled taut by 2 shinobi with slashed kiri headbands. The boy seemed to be completely unbothered by the blades that should have been tearing through his flesh, although the chain did at least serve to keep his arms bound to his sides snugly. Kakashi took extra note of the boy's visible skin having darkened to an earthy color, as well as the obvious strain that both missing nin were putting into their efforts. Izo turned his head to either side, lazily regarding both shinobi with boredom. "It's just like a hug, only sharp," he said cheerfully, cackling madly at his own stupid joke. But seriously. He stopped laughing and frowned. You can drop the chain now before either of the ninja, who looked disturbingly similar, could follow through with anything. Sasuke had decided to take action. The Uchiha took the enemy's long moment of distraction to throw several shuriken and a few kunai at the one with a single horn protruding from his forehead protector, forcing the man to abandon the gauntlet that the chain was attached to. The kunai all missed, as did most of the shuriken, but a couple hit true and left several nasty gashes on the shinobi's arms and legs. With the enemy wounded slightly, Sasuke charged forward with a kunai in hand. The Kirinin swung his now gauntletless fist at the boy as he neared him, only for Sasuke to bend back and avoid the strike. Spinning around suddenly, the Uchiha slashed into the man's side with his kunai and kicked one of his feet out from under him. The ninja crumpled to the ground in a heap and clutched his bleeding side painfully. He growled deeply as he attempted to get back to his feet, only for Sasuke to deliver a powerful axe kick down on the back of his head. Battle-hardened shinobi or not, the force of the blow was enough to render him near unconscious and out of the fight. Sasuke frowned a little at his far too quick victory. He had expected far more of a challenge from a missing nin, not a 5-second scuffle. He supposed that the man had been caught off guard and probably also underestimated him because of his age. That still didn't make the young Uchiha any happier. He wanted a challenge, a test of his strength, not some underhanded win courtesy of the elder Uzumaki. He grunted irritably as he gripped his kunai tightly and kept guard over the one he had taken down. He was arrogant, not stupid. Leaving a downed enemy unguarded was an idiotic move for any shinobi to make. As Sasuke took down his own self-selected opponent, the second of the two was busy dealing with getting his ass handed to him on a silver platter by Kakashi and Naruto. The Jonin was more than able to keep up with the missing nin, not feeling the need to exert himself in any way at all. Naruto on the other hand, was not equipped to hold back in a taijutsu fight without falling back on plain old dodging. His style of taijutsu focused on speed, fast strikes, continuous movement, very precise targets, and the opponent was often left feeling like a human-shaped pile of jelly, only with much more pain. While this was all happening, Izo was very casually removing the bladed chain from himself and wrapping it up into a large bundle, his torn clothes all self-repairing as he went. Whistling an inconsistent tune, he walked over to a still frozen stiff Sakura and dropped the chain at her feet. The pink kit jumped a bit and moved closer to Tazuna, the old bridge builder, looking at the girl as if she were an idiot. She was supposed to protect him, not the other way around. I would suggest you actually take that. Quality shuriken chain is hard to come by these days and you are in desperate need of something to make you useful, Izo said casually, ignoring the girl's glare at his blunt and insulting statement. As for you, old man, we are going to have us a nice little chat, maybe with some tea, a slice of cake, some lemon water, and the eventual confession as to why those two are after you, Tazuna sputtered in surprise. How do you know they're after me? They could just be after anyone going along the road, the old man tried to reason. To his credit, despite being slightly intoxicated, the man was rather observant and could make a rather good story up on the spot. Yeah. No, Izo said quickly. Missing nin of their quality, as unskilled as they may be, do not get by on the measly pickings of roadside robbery. They are on a payroll. The question now is for who, and why. Their target is kind of obvious, all things considered, the teen explained lazily, idly brushing dirt from his now fully repaired clothes. He had decided to actually wear his long white coat for the trip, as per his standard for long trips that he wasn't sure about. The extra piece of attire allowed him to be prepared for literally anything that wasn't a sudden outright war, all thanks to the wonderful art of Fuinjutsu. Just once I would like to have a mission go completely normal, Naruto whined pitifully from his spot next to Izo. There is always some kind of stupid thing going wrong that winds up being far more trouble than it's worth. Sakura looked at the boy with wide eyes before looking back to where the blonde was still helping Kakashi fight the missing nin. How? Aren't you supposed to be there? She asked in confusion. Sakura knew the clone technique, as was required, but she was also perfectly aware of the limitations of said technique. For one, they never lasted very long, they couldn't do anything physical since they didn't technically exist, and they most certainly didn't act of their own accord. Naruto glanced up at the pink kit before following the girl's confused gaze to his clone. Oh, that. Yeah, shadow clones make life so much easier. It's like having an unlimited amount of brothers that will do almost anything for you and understand you completely, he said casually, ignoring Izo's pained expression. Shadow clones? The Haruno asked in confusion. Advanced clone technique, high chakra cost, B rank kinjutsu. Not the kind of thing that can just be used by anyone, the blonde replied quickly. The only reason I can use it so easily is because of the QB, and even then I can only go so far. I much prefer to use blood clones though, they stay around longer and don't fall apart after one hit. Blood clones? Sakura asked, her expression gradually getting more confused. Oh, good going, bro. Why don't we just go around listing off our skills and jutsu to everyone we meet, Izo exclaimed sarcastically. Hey there, I'm Izo. I can separate my soul from my body and cut shit the fuck up. How are you today? He said cheerfully. Naruto facepalmed and Sakura sweat dropped as Izo continued to list off several completely ludicrous things ranging from and not limited to flying, time/space sealing techniques, and the apparent ability to kill a man with nothing more than an apple seed. Neither of the two listeners wanted to know if that last one was even possible. Naruto chose this time to block out his brother's mad ramblings and return to observing the two missing nin. Sasuke was still watching over his downed opponent, and Kakashi and his clone were just about finished tying up the second one, who proved to be far more aggressive than his lookalike. After a few minutes, during which Izo had actually shut up and gone about eating an apple, the two enemy shinobi had been effectively taken down and tied up together. Despite the two wearing rebreathers over their lower faces, it was obvious that they were pouting worse than a toddler who hadn't gotten dessert after dinner. It was odd. Seeing two grown men acting so grumpy and pathetic about being beaten was actually a new experience for Naruto. Most missing nin were stubborn and angry until you actually cut something off, by which point they simply reverted to glaring. Mizu and Gozu, demon brothers of Kirigakure, and unofficial subordinates of the famed demon of the mist, Kakashi listed off. If you two are here, then that means that you have either gone off on your own, or that you are going to be the least of our problems. The silver-haired Jonin turned to Tazuna, who was now sweating bullets. I think you have some explaining to do. The bridge builder's admittedly weak facade broke. Okay, I admit it. I gave false details on the mission request. But I had to, for my village, my family, everyone's counting on me. The man exclaimed. That is a lot of misplaced trust, Izo commented offhandedly. Kakashi just stared blankly at the man. I'm sorry to say it, but by all rights, we should leave you here. Lying about mission details is an offense and a deadly thing to do. If it were not for the fact that I believe my team to be capable of handling whatever we may come across, I would actually order a retreat. The scarecrow paused and glanced at the Uzumaki brothers. Thankfully, my team is rather skilled and more than capable to handle what has more than likely become an A-ranked mission. So long as they wish to continue that. As Sasuke was almost drooling at the thought of doing such a high-rank mission so early in his shinobi career, and I mean actually drooling. Sakura was less enthusiastic about it, fearing for her own safety despite her constant daydreams of being saved by her crush. Naruto was indifferent to the whole thing. He had a separate mission in Wave anyway, so he would still be stuck going there. He could, however, see what Kakashi was playing at, practically luring the Uchiha, and by extension the Haruno, into going along with the mission was somewhat cruel should anything go wrong. The blonde figured that the Hokage was using this mission as a chance to finally see what he and Izo were truly capable of. A smart tactic for a lazy man. Izo was a completely different story altogether. He couldn't care less about the actual mission in Wave, mostly because he had never been there and wasn't overly interested in such an isolated little country. He too was tasked with the same assassination mission as Naruto, but had more important things to worry about now. He knew all about the Demon of the Mist, or at least he knew everything that was possible to learn about them. The other hidden villages, especially Kiri, were never very open when it came to information about their missing nin. It was usually just a basic ranking of their danger level, a very basic visual description, and a ludicrous price on their head. The Demon of the Mist was, as of right now, one of Kiri's more notorious missing nin, being one of the famed 7 swordsmen of the Kirigakuren. Kisame Hoshigaki and a few of the other members were also missing nin, but no one had seen too much of any of them. They all kept relatively quiet and behind the scenes, which was a good thing in some ways. The 7 swordsmen of the mist were well renowned for more bad reasons than anything else, so everyone was glad that they had disbanded. Well, everyone except for Kirigakuren. The blindfolded Uzumaki had actually been interested in finding the legendary Demon of the Mist, if only to sate his own curiosity. For some peculiar reason, the wielder of the famed Kubi Karabocho had one of the most vague bingo book entries one could get whilst still being highly ranked. It had minimal information on appearance, nothing on gender, which had raised more than a few questions, and had not been updated once since it was put out. By all logic, a bingo book entry of someone who had been as such for multiple years should have been updated at least once, if only to keep the person's kill count/danger rank up to date. "We continue the mission," Sasuke blurted out/ordered. It took him a second to realize what he had done, but by that point, the damage had been done. Sakura stared at the Uchiha in awe. She had never seen him so excited about something before, and she would be damned before she deprived her crush of something that he wanted. "I'm with Sasuke-kun. It wouldn't be right if we just left Tazuna alone out here," she said cheerfully. Clearly, she had misinterpreted the reason for which Sasuke wanted to continue the mission. "I am so tempted to say no, preferably in a very loud and screechy voice, but I need to keep my distance from Konoha for the moment, so I'm in as well," Izo muttered irritably. "You need to stay away from your own home?" Tazuna asked, perplexed. "Very complicated arrangement involving a girl who will castrate me if given the chance. I might also have earned the ire of a particular snake summoner, and she will do far worse than castrate me." The teen shuddered violently at the mere thought of what Anko could do to him if she could catch him. "What the hell did you do to Anko?" Naruto asked dangerously. The blonde didn't care about Izo getting hurt, but Anko was an interrogation specialist, and so the possibility of her interrogating someone close to Izo to find out his location was not unlikely. The stupid grin on Izo's face made Naruto, and even Kakashi, groan loudly. Back in Konoha, within the privacy of her apartment, Anko was planning. She had an inhumanly evil glimmer in her eyes and a smirk that could probably make her ex-sensei shit a sideways brick. Her planning was halted momentarily as her newest pet, the snake that had once been her hand, whispered suggestions in her ear. Anko's smirk stretched into a grin as she continued to scribble things down in a scroll. A quick glance to her closet reminded her of exactly why she was planning the mutilation and possible murder of a fellow shinobi. The collection of revealing clothing she prided herself on had disappeared, replaced by numerous replicas of Guy's green spandex jumpsuit, only they were purple and had a white snake on them that coiled up her left leg and down her right arm. She was currently forced to wear one due to not having anything else to wear and it being rather cold in her apartment. She had to admit, the thing was comfortable as hell, and also looked really sexy stretched over her body, but that would not stop her from killing the person who assaulted her wardrobe. She was more than aware that it was Izo. Anko figured that he was the only person that could actually muster up the balls to break into her apartment and do such a thing. The only other ones she could think of were either dead, or had already learned their lesson. She did give the Uzumaki credit though. He had some serious skill and good taste in pranks too. It did make her worry about what Naruto was capable of, since the blonde was clearly the actual prankster of the two. "Remind me not to get on the Kyubey brat's bad side," she mumbled offhandedly, her small snake nodding its head fervently. The special Jonin let out a sigh as she spun around lazily on her swivel chair. It was one of the few things that she had furniture-wise, with the rest of her apartment being kept rather bare and dull. She was still containing her joy at having had her cursed seal taken care of, even if it had not been in the way she originally wanted. The benefits she had gained from Izo's tinkering were worth every single agonizing moment of pain. Now that she thought about it, she was still curious about the activation stages that Izo said were locked in the seal, not that she was stupid enough to try and use them without good fucking reason. Standing up, the kunoichi stretched, grinning mischievously at the sound of the spandex jumpsuit stretching with her. Despite it being a complete abomination of clothing, a literal crime of fashion, Anko could totally see several ways in using it to her advantage. There were very few men who could resist a woman like her in a tight form-fitting outfit. The ones that could were probably gay or not worth her time anyway. Her lips twisted into a vicious grin as she was hit with a brilliant idea. She wouldn't make use of the jumpsuits, at least not yet. No, she would wait, bide her time, make adjustments, and then utilize them into being the very tool of Izo's destruction. It would be glorious, sexy, and maybe a little naughty, but glorious nonetheless. She was just thankful that Izo was so open about being a pervert, meaning that her plan was more than likely to succeed. The evil giggling that she allowed herself to partake in was enough to give several seniors in Konoha early heart attacks. Izo was chuckling as he imagined how Anko was reacting to his gift when he suddenly froze, choking on his laughter and paling drastically. He fell to his knees and seemed to lose all will to live as he stared almost hatefully into the sky above. The scarier thing was that Kakashi mimicked the boy's actions perfectly, only he was holding his Icha book to his heart as if in some kind of prayer. The other members of the group were simply confused and a little scared. "Please tell me this isn't something I should be concerned with," Sasuke said almost pleadingly. "Sasuke-kun, they're scaring me," Sakura whined childishly. "Just keep calm." "Deep breaths, Naruto. Deep fucking breaths," Naruto chanted soothingly as he massaged his temples. "He can't help it. He doesn't deserve to die. Just let him get over it and then tell Mother." "Yes, Mother will take care of everything." By this point the blonde was rambling and cackling like a patient at an asylum. "My perverseness is being used against me," Izo said fearfully, anime tears flowing freely from underneath his bandages. "Life has betrayed me. Kami has betrayed me. My mind has betrayed me. What has the world come to? When a fellow fan of the erotics can have his beliefs turned against him in such a way?" Kakashi asked sadly. "Uchiha, if you kill them right now, I will swear complete loyalty to you," Naruto said in complete seriousness. "As tempting as that may be, I don't want you as a servant," Sasuke grunted. "There are thousands of fangirls that would say otherwise," the blonde Jinchuriki mumbled. "Trust me. They have fan fiction about it within the blink of an eye." Izo had gone from a moping miserable mess, to bitch-slapping his little brother with a brick. "No breaking the fourth wall. You know what they do when you break the fourth wall?" he screamed angrily. Tazuna watched on dumbfounded. He had accidentally hired a group of completely useless morons who should be locked away in a mental health ward for everyone's safety. On the plus side, he had definitely learned his lesson from this. Never try and go cheap on something important, such as that safety of an entire country. "I think I'm going to need to start drinking more if want to get through this with my sanity," he thought idly, pulling another bottle of sake from his bag as he went. It had taken a while, but the group did eventually get back on track, the events of before having been locked away in their subconscious and sworn to complete secrecy for extra measure. Mizu and Gozu had been left tied to a tree. They proved to be stubborn when it came to interrogation, but that was only because Kakashi all but refused to let Izo have a go at it. The boy was scary enough as it was without showing off his skill for torturing, although it did help shed a little light on why Anko was so good at her job. Turns out spending time with Orochimaru made people learn some things. Naruto still had the occasional twitch every now and then, muttering things about stupid perverts, but everyone was able to look past that for now. Tazuna was even more annoying than before since he was now absolutely sure that the Jonin team was near useless. Sakura and Sasuke took it the worst, but neither would openly retaliate. They didn't want to risk not getting paid, even if the Uchiha didn't actually need the money. The team and their client were now currently making their way towards the location where they were supposed to meet a man about a boat trip across the water. Kakashi had mentally groaned at the fact that he had yet to teach either of his two actual Jonin how to water walk, or even tree walk for that matter. He would remedy that at some point soon. Either way, They still needed to get a boat right across, and Tazuna had apparently organized it in secret since Gato wouldn't allow it to happen had he known about it. That was one thing they had learned. Gato, the millionaire tycoon, had taken control of the Land of Waves. He had them in a stranglehold, economically anyway. He had control of the boats, and the docks, and with that came control of absolutely everything else. It seemed he had been slowly draining Wave dry of resources and money for quite a while now, using his newly acquired funds to expand his own small business empire. It had been Gato who had sent the demon brothers after Tazuna's head, and no one put it past the man to have several more little ambushes set up. Sasuke was taking the time to reflect on his rather pathetic fight with one of the Kari missing nin. It would have been a bit of an ego boost to the otherwise arrogant Uchiha, but he had noticed too many things to let his fight feel like an accomplishment. For one, Izo's ability to become all but invulnerable was a real shocker to him, as was watching Naruto and Kakashi toy with the second of the demon brothers. The Uzumaki were clearly on a whole different level than any Jonin. Sasuke was even hesitant to say they were Chunin level. He wasn't sure what to do in regards to them, but he wouldn't let them bother him for now. It was one thing to get angry over being weaker than someone his age, it was an entirely different thing when those same people had apparently been specially trained for a very specific purpose. Sasuke wouldn't say it out loud, but he would much prefer being weaker than Naruto so long as it meant that the blonde kept the Kyuubi in control. Izo was older than him, so he could still overlook the teen's superior skills. He supposed he could just ask for more training from Kakashi, and if he became desperate, the Uzumaki themselves. Anything was worth getting stronger to kill his brother, even suffering through humility. Another agonizing hour of walking found the group at the shoreline, with no boat in sight. The Shinobi team stared questioningly at the bridge builder before all sighing in unison and waiting patiently for something to happen. "Next time, we are walking across," Naruto grumbled, sending a pointed stare at Kakashi. "Hey, that's only if you manage to protect me long enough for me to finish building the bridge," Tazuna snorted smugly. "No, even if you don't build the bridge, we are still walking across," the blonde said surely. Naruto, you do realize that without a bridge there would be nothing but water, right?" Sakura asked dumbly. "We can't exactly walk across water." "Well, you can't. Not yet anyway," the Jinchuriki said offhandedly. "All just a matter of time. You won't let this go, will you?" Kakashi droned irritably. "Not until you start to actually teach us some stuff," no, Izo replied. "For the sake of everyone, please do so before Naruto gets too annoyed. He tends to get a bit pranky when he's cranky." "I am right here," Naruto growled. "See what I mean?" The younger Uzumaki grinned viciously. "Keep going, Izo, and I will set Kurotsuchi on you again. Maybe I'll get Mother to help her," he threatened. "Aren't you two orphans?" Sasuke asked suddenly. "Yes," both boys answered in unison. "But you just said you had a mother," Sakura stated in confusion. "Yeah, adoptive mother. She hates me sometimes," Izo muttered. "Don't make things up, Izo, she loves both of us equally," Naruto said sternly. Izo shrugged. "Love, hate, same thing really. She still never hesitates to try and kill me." "That's because you're an asshole," the blonde deadpanned. "Sometimes I'm glad that Itachi killed everyone. I would end up killing him if we ended up like that," Sasuke thought to himself. "I'm going to kill him anyway, but still. It's better than what they have." Kakashi just sighed deeply. Where the hell was the boat? The sound of a small cane being stabbed irritably against the floor echoed through the dark room, the holder of said cane sneering angrily towards a figure across the room who was mostly shadowed by darkness. The short man's glare quickly flickered over to the child standing in front of him, a young girl by appearance, no older than 14 at most. It infuriated him that he was forced to talk through this girl, but he was angrier that she believed herself to be better than him. "What is it, Gato?" the girl asked politely, although her clear lack of respect was evident. "You told me that you would deal with the bridge builder, and yet you have yet to so much as make a move at him," Gato growled impatiently. "And?" the girl asked curiously. Gato sneered. "Don't be smart with me, girl. Tell your useless master that I expect results soon, as in by yesterday." The man snapped. The girl clenched her fist and glared at Gato angrily. She went to take a step towards the tycoon with the intentions of harming him if not outright killing him. Her advance was suddenly stopped as an incredibly large and impressively long sword was hefted into the air and held mere inches from Gato's throat, this feat being performed effortlessly by the figure hidden in the shadows of the room. The girl saw her master give a very subtle gesture with her head and backed off slowly. "Being impatient is not a good trait to have, Gato," a gruff but notably female voice growled. "I said I would kill the bridge builder, but that does not mean I will be charging in blind. He has hired help, and so is not anywhere near as helpless as you had hoped." That being said, now that I know that, there should be no problem in my completing of this mission now. My apprentice and I will leave shortly, so I suggest you have our money ready for when we come back." The giant sword was swiftly moved away and back to its place, resting against the large chair that the wielder sat in. Gato rubbed his throat nervously and snarled at the woman and girl. "You had best get the job done. Come back with your tails between your legs and I will add you to the entertainment stock for my men," he threatened before hastily leaving the room, his 2 bodyguards following after him once they had finished tying up their potential entertainment. "Zakira-sama." The young girl began softly. "I know, Haku, I know," the woman interrupted with a deep sigh. "That man is a greedy little shit stain on humanity. If he wasn't paying us, I would gut him right now," she growled. "Zakira-sama, perhaps we should leave. We are not that low on money, it would not hinder us to simply run out on this mission," Haku suggested. The woman snorted. "Yeah, and give up such an easy payday? I don't think so. Although the Demon Brothers were not very strong, it would have taken a somewhat skilled team to take them down without much trouble. It's been far too long since I had a proper workout and a fight, and I'm just itching to trim me some leaves from that stupid peace-loving tree they call a hidden village. Are you sure they will be so easy?" Haku asked unsurely. Zakira shrugged. "Who knows? Konoha is known for its strong shinobi, but most are too kind-hearted for their own good. I doubt that they would be willing to actually try to kill me outright. At most they will try to capture me for information, and that's where you come in," she mused casually. "Of course, Zakira-sama." The girl bowed slightly at her master. "Now, let's go and get this over with so we can get paid and get the fuck out of this shithole. Can you please stop staring at me like that?" Izo asked irritably. No was the firm reply from Sakura, Tazuna, and the boatman, all 3 of them continuing to stare at the boy in awe. "I regret everything about this decision," the teen groaned. The reason for the unwanted attention he had been getting was the fact that he was flying casually over the water next to the boat. There had been something said about it being too small a boat for everyone and he had the least taxing method of movement over the water. It only seemed logical that he was the one left out. Naruto could have also been chosen, if merely because the blonde's ridiculous chakra reserves would barely be scratched by water walking. Izo had actually volunteered to fly beside the boat since he didn't like the idea of being stuck between Sasuke and Sakura. It had been a little over 10 minutes since they had left the shore, the boatman having been in a bit of a rush when he arrived. They were relatively close to the land of waves, but the gradually thickening mist was forcing them to go slower and slower. At this rate, it would take them another good 10 minutes or more to reach the shore. Izo wasn't bothered, he was free to float around in the air, but the others were starting to get a little annoyed. "Tazuna-san, how long do you think it will take you to finish building the bridge?" Sakura asked curiously. "However long it takes," the old man replied. "Feel free to check the progress so far," he said, gesturing up and to the side. Everyone glanced over curiously and saw the giant towering structure. It was an impressive bridge, at least half of it already having been built. Judging from the overall size of the structure, the team estimated that it would take a couple of weeks to complete, maybe 2 or 3 if there was adequate manual labor. Naruto made a mental note to lend Tazuna some clones to speed things along. He didn't want to be stuck here too long after his secondary objective was complete. "Impressive," Kakashi said in a bored tone. "Gee, thanks," Tazuna drawled. "Anyone else getting the sudden sense of impending doom?" Naruto asked curiously, staring intently into a quick-moving cloud of mist. "I like to think of it as the fuzzy feeling. It usually only happens when something sharp and pointy is heading my way, and is often best repelled using the power of a fuzzy," Izo replied childishly. "Power of a fuzzy?" Sakura asked unsurely. "He means using the cuteness of a small animal as a weapon," Sasuke answered emotionlessly. I wasn't expecting you to know something like that, Sasuke." "I'm impressed," Kakashi said with an eye smile. Tazuna snorted. "You seem more impressed over a kid knowing about cute animals than you are with my bridge. I should feel insulted. You should also feel unconscious considering how much sake you've had since we left Konoha. I'm amazed that you can even talk," Naruto stated with a slightly concerned glance at the old man. "Does anyone else hear a whistling noise?" Sasuke asked with narrowed eyes. "Knife." Izo cheered happily. "Duck." Kakashi ordered quickly, managing to pull down Tazuna and the boatman as Naruto pulled down Sasuke and Sakura. Izo simply allowed himself to fly a little higher as a giant blade flew through the air and over the top of the small boat. "I take it we have company," the scarecrow mused casually as he and everyone sat up again. "Yeah, and judging by the emotions I'm picking up, they are really bloodthirsty at the moment," Naruto replied grimly. The bloodthirsty ones were always a challenge. They usually had minimal care for their own health so long as they killed things and walked out of it relatively alive. It was one of the factors that made him so dangerous when he got enraged in a Jinchuriki state, since he could actually disregard any injury he got. Well. If isn't Kakashi Hitake, the legendary student of the Yondaime Hokage and the last wielder of the Sharingan. I really did get lucky this time, didn't I? A feminine voice echoed ominously through the mist as it slowly engulfed the boat. Kakashi stood up and calmly stepped off of the boat, using his chakra to stand atop the water's surface, much to the surprise of Sasuke and Sakura. Sakura Momochi, aka Demon of the Mist, wielder of the legendary Kubi Karabocho, a rank missing nin of Kirigakure. I was not aware that you would be in the land of waves, the Jonin said in a bored tone. You know, I expected a bit more of a warm welcome the next time we met. What happened? Didn't you enjoy our last encounter? Sakura asked curiously. You've met her before? Naruto asked skeptically. Kakashi giggled perversely and avoided looking at any of his students. Oh, he's met me before. Of course we didn't realize who each other was, thanks to one too many bottles of sake, but you get the idea, Sakura said as she allowed the mist around her to disperse slightly. Naruto raised an eyebrow as he observed the woman. She was quite tall and had messy black hair that was cut rather short, reminding him of an unkempt version of Kurotsuchi's hairstyle. She was wearing a skin-tight black top with no sleeves, a pair of simple black pants, and gray striped leg and arm warmers. Her lower face was wrapped up in bandages and she wore her slashed-out kiri headband sideways on her head. The concerning thing about her appearance was the giant blade that was held in her hand with apparently no effort, despite that being the same blade that had flown over their heads just before. Water clone, the blonde stated simply. Whoa, looks like one of your brats actually has some observation skills. I think I will enjoy killing that one, the woman said viciously. That's assuming that you can even get past me first, Kakashi droned lazily. Don't get cocky, Kakashi, Sakura growled. Cool, a sword chick. There are so few of those around these days, Izo said happily, as he calmly floated down to the water's surface next to Kakashi. You have a flying one? The Kirikunoichi asked in surprise. You don't? Kakashi countered. Sakura snorted in amusement. She glanced at the boat and assessed its occupants. The blonde had a little shitload of chakra pumping out of him, so he was placed on the primary kill list right off the bat. The other two kids didn't look like that much of a problem, the pink-haired one being all but crossed off the list of potential opponents. The two civilians were absolutely no problem, so long as she made sure to kill her target. Kakashi and the blindfolded one were a little more concerning, both being capable of actually fighting on the water. I suppose you're here for the bridge builder? The silver-haired man asked. Yep, the woman answered simply. Sorry lady, but the old guy still needs to build me a treehouse, so you can't have him yet, Izo said crossly, folding his arms childishly. A treehouse? Seriously? Naruto said, shaking his head with a small smile. Sorry brat, but you can't have a treehouse, Sakura said with a smirk. A loud snapping sound rung out through the mist as a second Sakura appeared next to Naruto and swung her massive sword into the blonde's neck, the blunt edge of it shattering the boy's neck on impact and punting him off the boat and into the thickening mist. Sakura chuckled mirthfully as she faded away into the mist, ignoring the shocked and terrified expression of the rest of her soon-to-be victims. Kakashi stared in the direction that Naruto had been thrown wide-eyed. He was not entirely sure if the Jinchuriki could survive that kind of damage, but he certainly hoped so. Glancing to his side, he noticed that Izo was completely unfazed by the event, although the Jonin wasn't sure if that was just because of the boy's seemingly declining mental awareness of things. It was somewhat concerning to see the teen rapidly become more and more childish. Kakashi, I think you might want to get the bridge builder to shore. You should be able to protect him better there, Izo said seriously. The Jonin stared at the boy curiously. And what will you be doing? He asked. Izo shrugged. I'll figure it out. Just keep the team safe from any surprise attacks. Naruto should catch up to you at some point, so long as he doesn't take his time getting back up from that hit. I should be able to hold of Momochi for a little while, he said flippantly. Should? Kakashi asked seriously. It's a guesstimate at best. Don't worry, if I get too far in over my head I'll just fly out, Izo replied offhandedly. I would keep my eyes open though. There is another chakra source around here somewhere. Whether or not it's another enemy, I'm not sure, but I would be cautious anyway. Kakashi nodded. I'll keep that in mind, he said, gesturing for the boatman to start moving again. The man eagerly went about the task, getting the boat moving as quickly and quietly as he could, Kakashi following alongside it on the water. Izo watched them leave, making sure that Sakura didn't try something underhanded. Once he was sure that they were a somewhat safe distance away, and that Zakira was still circling him, he allowed himself to fall into a defensive stance, slowly drawing his sword from its sheath. It seemed only right to face one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist at their own specialty. Izo figured it would be a good test for his kenjutsu skills. "So who exactly are you, brat?" "Not that many shinobi who can say they can fly," Zakira asked, her voice echoing through the mist in a way that couldn't be traced back to her. "Oh dear, it seems I am still forgetting my manners. I am Izo Uzumaki, also known as that crazy blind kid with a sword." "Pleasure to meet you," he replied cheerfully. He smirked as he sensed the small ripple caused by the woman's sudden falter in her otherwise precise steps, the only indication that she was shocked. "Uzumaki, eh? Don't hear about them too much these days. I thought they were all killed almost. We're planning on having a big party to announce our return. There's gonna be spotlights, food, streamers, maybe a cannon, some cake, and a bunch of people that we don't know. Do you want to come?" Izo asked innocently. "Hey, sorry kid, but you're in my way," Zakira growled suddenly as she appeared next to him and swung her sword in a long horizontal slash, trying to cleave the boy cleanly in half. A loud crashing sound rung out as the woman grit her teeth, her arms suddenly aching as painful vibrations rippled up through the blade and into her limbs. It was almost the same as if she had hit a very solid stone wall, which she had done once accidentally. Her eyes followed up the length of her sword and stopped suddenly, widening almost comically at the sight before her. "Well, fuck me," she thought in surprise. Izo grunted as he forcefully shoved the large blade to the side with the arm that had managed to stop the thing dead. It had sliced through his clothes and revealed the earthy-colored skin underneath, but had done minimal damage to his arm, barely even cutting deep enough to draw blood. Izo was not going to tell the woman that it was the first time that someone had managed to actually cut into his skin while he was using his earth spear technique. He didn't want her to have that satisfaction. "I think by now you've realized that I am quite possibly one of the worst opponents for a swordsman such as yourself to be facing. Not that I expect to actually defeat you easily, if at all. I am, however, quite interested in seeing how my sword skills fare against someone like you," he said casually. "The fuck is up with you? Are you bipolar or something? Because there is no way that you can go from being an idiot to this serious that quickly," Zakira asked irritably. "You know, I'm not even sure. They said something about multiple personality disorder, but I kinda stopped listening by that point," Izo said with a shrug. "Now, if you don't mind, please give me a good fight." Zakira leant back quickly to avoid the quick slash at her throat. Jumping back, she allowed her mist to engulf her again, impairing her vision almost completely, but leaving her other senses to fill in the gap. She listened, felt, and smelled everything within her mist. Nothing was safe from her within her jutsu, or at least she had thought so. She had stopped moving as soon as it dawned on her that she couldn't sense the teen at all. She had already realized that he didn't give off a traceable chakra signature, but she didn't expect him to be completely insensible. Zakira almost assumed that he had simply not moved since she had jumped away, but something was making her think otherwise. "Two can play at this game," Izo whispered cheekily, his voice copying Zakira's as it echoed through the mist. "But I think I have an unfair advantage, so I'll give you a chance." The woman scowled at being toyed with so easily by a child and gripped her sword tighter. A sudden and incredibly quiet splash from behind her alerted her and she spun around and slashed through the mist. The clanging of steel on steel tore through the air as Izo deflected the blow with his own sword, but he was still thrown a good distance away by the power of the strike. The woman had a much larger and heavier sword on her side, and was, funnily enough, physically stronger than him as well. The Kirikunoichi growled as she watched Izo go through some slow hand seals. She felt him flare his chakra slightly and raised a non-existent eyebrow as the mist thickened even more, eventually getting to the point where she couldn't see her hand in front of her face. The woman was confused. Wasn't the mist helping her? Why the hell would he give her more of an advantage? Maybe that blindfold isn't just for show, she thought to herself. Zakira had actually thought that the boy was simply trying to emulate his sensei in some stupid way by wearing the blindfold. She had assumed that it was made of a thin material that he could easily see through, or that he had some dojutsu underneath that helped him see, like the Byakugan or something. Either way, she had to come to terms with the fact that the brat was at least able to hold his own while within the mist. A grin formed under her bandages. This was going to be fun. Naruto huffed slightly as he strode purposely down the dark and damp hallway that was disturbingly similar to a sewer, or some large kind of aqueduct-like structure. Considering all the pipes that stretched on endlessly from the ceiling and the walls, the latter wasn't all too difficult to justify. Since this was his apparent representation of his mind, Naruto was also very much inclined to call it an aqueduct. Thinking of one's own mind as a sewer was a surefire way to make your mind stay that way. The blonde idly took notice of the blue-tinted steam that was seeping out of the smaller pipes. He remembered the last time he had been here and they had simply glowed, but that was many years ago now, and Izo had since altered many things to do with his chakra and the seal. The red pipes no longer leaked either, which he found to be a minor delight. Instead, they had been reinforced and had multiple small pipes that connected them directly to several of the smaller bluish pipes, a thick red substance being slowly pumped through them and into his own chakra. He had expected to have heard something from the Kyuubi about that particular alteration, but the beast had never complained. Naruto never saw reason to come and check up on the fox, so he just ended up leaving things as they were. It wasn't as if the Baijuo could do anything to him now unless he truly went ballistic with his emotions, which was unlikely. Making one last turn down yet another bleak and oh so detestable hallway, he finally reached his destination. Standing before the gigantic cage, an odd experience no matter how familiar he may have been with it. The Kyuubi's power simply radiated from the darkness beyond the large bars, constantly reminding him of just what it was that he was containing within himself. The Kyuubi, while commonly known as being a malevolent creature of destruction and death, was actually somewhat lazy. Its demeanor reminded him a little bit of a Nara's, always sleeping or mumbling about how something was far too much trouble that it was worth. Back in the days when he actually used to talk to the thing, those complaints were usually about Naruto's constant questioning, not that it could be helped. He had been very young and curious back then. "Alright, what do you want?" Naruto asked impatiently. He had actually been waiting for the Kyuubi to initiate communications with him again for some time, but the beast had picked a rather unfortunate time to do so, hence his wanting to get things over with quickly. "I believe that I was the impatient one last time we met," the beast drawled as it lazily opened its large blood-red eyes and stared at the blonde before it. "Nevertheless, I am not unpleased with your improvements in personality," it mused mostly to itself. "Just hurry up and tell me why I'm here so I can get out and get back to my mission," Naruto replied irritably. "You are here, boy, because you were foolish and had your neck snapped by that woman. A truly amusing display of being unaware, I might add. You should be thankful to me that you can even survive such an injury, let alone walk away from it so quickly. I have yet to see myself walk away from where I landed yet. Until I get back to the real world, I don't count this as a save, ungrateful as ever I see. Oh well, it no longer matters. What does matter is that you did not listen to me all those years ago when I told you not to trust that boy. Are you even aware of the changes he has made to that accursed seal?" the fox asked angrily. Naruto shrugged. "I have a decent understanding of seals, enough to read them and decipher them at least. As far as I've seen, he hasn't crossed any lines or done anything too dangerous with the seal's overall design and function. So long as it keeps you in here, and me alive to continue acting as your prison, I'm happy." The Kyuubi let out a dry and humorless chuckle. "So naive. Despite everything, you still fail to see the bad intentions that everyone around you harbors. Surely it must cross your mind. Their reasons for helping you, what they hope to gain from it all. You cannot possibly believe that they are showing you such kindness out of the goodness of their hearts. Even that old man that you hold on such a high pedestal took far too long before he actually did what was necessary to put an end to the misery in your life." The blonde grit his teeth angrily. He was more than aware of the truth behind what the fox was saying, but he refused to let it get to him. Everyone in the shinobi world had an ulterior motive for everything they did, and not all of them were with good intentions. He himself had wanted to be Hokage simply for the recognition and respect the position gave, only really thinking of his own selfish desires at the time. That dream had of course changed since then, and he had also learned to embrace some of his darker intentions when it came to his overall goals life. Danzo had helped in that regard, as well as old man Hokage's sudden change in attitude. "If you're trying to get a rise out of me, it won't work. I'm not a stupid child anymore. If you have nothing better to talk about, then I suggest you just give up and stay quiet like you have for the past 5 years, the Jinchuriki growled. "Your distrust is understandable, expected actually. But I have to ask you, what have I ever done to lead you astray? Have I ever lied to you before? No. I taught you, boy. I helped you when no one else would, I healed your injuries, I kept you alive, and what do I get as thanks?" Resentment. The fox snorted lightly at that. "Again, such is expected. But I would appreciate it if you would at least not just shrug off my advice when I only give so little of it. I do not hand out wisdom so casually." Naruto sighed. The Baijuo did have a valid point there. It had never lied to him before, and had done more than anyone else in regards to looking after him when he was young. He knew that the fox had only done so out of its own need for self-preservation, but that was still more than what could be said for others, including Sarutobi. "What do you want?" Naruto asked again. The fox grinned widely. "Nothing, for now. As you have said, that brother of yours has yet to truly do anything that I feel is a threat to either of us. However, at some point or another, that little mechanism in your seal will not be enough to filter me out completely, and when that happens, you will lose control. I merely wish for you and me to begin remedying our current relationship so that when that time comes we might actually be of assistance to each other," the Baijiu said calmly. "You seem pretty sure that it's going to happen regardless of what I do," the blonde said in suspicion. "I am the strongest of the 9 Baijiu, brat. Even in my current state, I am still far too much for mere seals to safely handle forever. Even now, I can feel the seal weakening ever so slightly. Your brother did a good job in fortifying it and holding it together, but even his additions will fail eventually. Without the sealing key, you have no hope." "Sealing key?" Naruto said in surprise. He hadn't heard about a sealing key for his seal before. The Kyuubi grinned wider than before. "Oh yes, a sealing key. Your brother, I believe, has had some suspicion about it for some time, but I doubt even he is aware that it actually exists. I am not certain as to where it is, or who is in possession of it, but I can assure you, it's out there. It is the only real way to tighten the seal back to its original design, and also the key to releasing the full extent of my power. Without it, you are restricted, and slowly running out of time," the Baijiu explained. Naruto frowned deeply as he thought over everything the Baijiu had said. For it being the first time they had met in years, the Kyuubi had acted as if practically no time had passed at all. It was also being a bit too willing to talk. Before now, it had been hard to get the fox to even grunt replies to him, but now it was having a full conversation with him. Still, he had some things to think about now, and a key to ask the old man about. Overall, the meeting with the fox had been both beneficial and concerning. Whatever the Baijiu's reasons were for wanting to improve their relationship, they were not going to be good. "I guess I can just humor him for now," he thought to himself. It was odd, realizing that he was thinking to himself within his own mind. "I would suggest you get a move on. Your team may require your assistance," the Kyuubi drawled as it quickly lowered itself back into a comfortable position. The young Namikaze nodded and closed his eyes, focusing on exiting the manifestation of his mind. Naruto's blue eyes snapped open before going half-lidded in an almost unimpressed stare. He was still underwater, which meant he had to hold his breath, and his neck was still bent at an odd angle, which meant he would need to snap it back into place himself. Despite the great benefits of having a regeneration factor, his body didn't appear to recognize the displacement of bones as something to fix naturally. It would heal any and all damage around the dislocation, but would leave the rest to him. Gritting his teeth in anticipation for the pain, he grabbed his head and jerked it sharply to another odd angle, purposely damaging the muscles around his vertebrae. His regeneration kicked in and he allowed the pulsing of his healing muscles and tendons to force his neck back into the correct place. He groaned loudly as he finally let go of his head and felt that everything had aligned itself correctly. With his neck problem being solved, Naruto quickly swam to the surface and gulped down a few mouthfuls of air. He had probably been submerged for several minutes, so he had been running low on air ever since he had woken up. Climbing up onto the water's surface, he looked around and realized he couldn't see anything past the mist. Izo had more than likely gone and added his own mist emojis. Since sight was pretty much useless for now, Naruto closed his eyes and relied on his other senses, mainly his sense of smell. He couldn't pick up Izo's scent, as per usual, but he did pick up on Sakura's scent amongst the mist. He also picked up on the team with Tezuna on the shoreline, the boatman having apparently hightailed it out of the area. He furrowed his brow as he picked up on another scent, one that hadn't been around just before. It was female. He couldn't really tell. Either way, whoever it was, they were heading for Kakashi and the others, and fast. Naruto was confident that Kakashi could handle one lone enemy ninja, if that was what the person turned out to be, and so he went to assist Izo. Knowing his brother, the older teen was probably showing off somehow and would drag the fight on for far too long. They did not have the time to waste on that, and it was too dangerous to let the older boy continue to use his chakra for extended periods of time, not that Izo would ever agree with that assessment. Naruto merely figured that he could save everyone a potential headache if he was fast enough, which with the Hiruzen, he definitely was. Kakashi stared intently into the mist with his Sharingan uncovered. It was pointless, however, as even with the dojutsu he couldn't see anything save for the occasional flare of chakra, as well as the ever-present glow of Naruto's chakra. He had been quite relieved to find that the blonde was perfectly fine, if the boy's chakra emissions were anything to go by. Izo though, he wasn't so sure about. "Kakashi-sensei, shouldn't we leave?" Sakura said shakily. The Jonin glanced at his students. The pink cat was nervous and frightened, but he couldn't do anything about that at the moment. Sasuke, however, seemed a little irritated, no doubt from being left with guard duty while the Uzumakis handled the problem. He couldn't really do anything about that either, so he just hoped it wouldn't escalate into a bigger problem. No, he replied sternly. Abandoning teammates, even like this, is not something I will condone. Until Naruto and Danzo regroup with us, we will stay here and wait. Should Sakura get past them, I will handle her. I am confident that I could defeat her while she isn't even at 100%, he said reassuringly. I'm afraid you were mistaken, Hokage, a quiet and feminine voice said calmly from behind the group. Turning around, the team were met with the sight of a young girl, if the voice was anything to go by, wearing an Anbu-styled mask with a red wavy pattern on the power half. She appeared to be a hunter nin from Kirigakure, judging from the not-slashed-out symbol of that village being engraved into the mask. And why would you say that? Kakashi asked back casually. His Sharingan was staring at the girl intently, watching out for any signs of chakra manipulation. It wasn't that he didn't trust the girl, it's just that he didn't really trust anyone that snuck up on him and told him he was wrong. Hunter nin or not, he wouldn't be taking any chances. The hunter nin bowed almost apologetically. I am sorry, truly, but I must take the bridge builder from you, she said in a calm and unwavering tone. Apparently, she was not all that sorry for having to take the man. What? You can. Our mission is to protect him, Sakura exclaimed. Sakura, I don't think that she cares about our mission, Sasuke growled, clenching his fist eagerly. I'm afraid Sasuke is correct, Kakashi said sadly as he narrowed his eyes at the girl dangerously. I guess it would be safe to assume that you are working with Sakura? He asked with a slight edge to his voice. The hunter nin nodded her head. Yes, I am Sakura-sama's tool, her weapon. Again, I am sorry, but my master requires Tazuna. Please hand him over peacefully and no one will get hurt, she replied. You do realize that we have you outnumbered, right? The Jonin said. He knew that the girl could be potentially stronger than she appeared, but that would matter little against 3 opponents, one of whom possessed the Sharingan. It is of no consequence, the girl stated confidently. Please. I do not wish to fight, I do not wish to fight either. But we will not give up Tazuna so easily, the silver-haired scarecrow said sternly. The hunter nin seemed to glance down sadly before bowing to them once again. I understand, and I respect your decision. However, I cannot disappoint my master, she said firmly, moving ever so slightly into a fighting stance. I do hope you can forgive me, she said quietly, before she simply melted into a puddle at her feet. The temperature of the area seemed to plummet slightly, to the point where the team's breaths left steam in the air. A faint whistling sound alerted Kakashi as he spun around and deflected 2 accurately aimed senbon with a kunai. Sakura, however, was not as quick to act. The Jonin didn't even get to make a sound as her eyes rolled into the back of her head and she collapsed to the ground lifelessly, 2 senbon sticking out of the back of her neck. The worst part of it though, was that she wasn't breathing. One down, the hunter nin said sadly, as she calmly walked out of the mist. 2 to go. Kakashi gripped his kunai tighter. The senbon thrown at him had been a distraction, and he had fallen for it far too easily. Now Sakura was dead, and it was his fault. The long since repressed emotions from old memories came flooding back. He shook his head of those thoughts. Now was not the time to dwell on his failures. He turned and glared angrily at the hunter nin as she casually pulled out several more senbon. You will regret that, he said grimly. No, I will not, the girl stated sharply before she began blaring through hand seals, senbon still somehow held in her hands. Secret technique, crystal ice mirrors, she said quickly. Kakashi, Sasuke, and Tazuna all watched in shock and awe as the water and moisture in the air around them was suddenly molded and frozen into dozens of large ice mirrors, all of them creating a large dome around the small group. The Hyoton? Kakashi thought in surprise. The hunter nin calmly allowed herself to meld into one of the mirrors behind her, her figure suddenly appearing in all of the mirrors. I know who you are, Kakashi of the Sharingan, and I do not intend to underestimate you, she said, every image of her readying their senbon. Forgive me, she whispered, before sending a hailstorm of the small projectiles at the 2 shinobi left within her dome. They never stood a chance. That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts. Anime God here, and I'm signing off.